we have April 6th, OTA balance updates. For those unaware, OTA stands for over the air, refers to a hotfix change we're making to content outside of our usual semi-monthly patch schedule. This week, we're making 4 changes in an ongoing effort to encourage a more diverse spread of decks and individual cards being played. To set expectations, this patch won't cure all the metagame's ills, but it should represent an improvement until our next action-packed patch. All right, we should have big expectations for the patch later this month. Red Skull, going down to 12 power. Our previous patch notes discussed, we last adjusted Red Skull to weaken his interactions with Shuri and Taskmaster. We didn't really weaken it with Shuri, but we did weaken it with Taskmaster. Our goal was to keep his strength otherwise flat or even, or slightly improved, and see how things settled once we softened Thanos' grip. We know many players disagreed with this approach, and we're weighing that feedback today as we continue to debate internally how aggressive our balance updates should be. In this case, things settled into an improved metagame, but with decks based around Shuri and Taskmaster still too strong for our liking. We recognize Shuri is clearly the true offender here, and we have a balance change for Shuri ready. However, that change to Shuri needs a patch to be implemented and cannot be done via this OTA change. So this is an interim adjustment to weaken the Shuri deck a bit more. We expect Shuri to remain viable after this Red Skull tweak, and Shuri's still going to be very good after this change. But we don't want to drastically nerf multiple innocent cards when we have a change coming to Shuri herself. This is excellent communication. Regardless of what changes happen in here past this, I like these paragraphs and what is communicated here. Once that change to Shuri is live, we will revert this or previous Red Skull changes? Maybe, but we're going to give that some time because we'd rather ensure a larger shift in the metagame. Sunspot deserve this. Sunspot going to a 1-0. They're just taking 1 off of the top. Sunspot's one of the most heavily played cards in the game, and it's obvious he's strong. He's Series 2 and has powerful synergies with other cards like She-Hulk and Infinite. This is an excellent change. I would be legitimately surprised if Sunspot saw less play with this change. We'll see less play with this change, which means it's a good thing. In my opinion, anytime they can take 1 point of power away from something that's omnipresent and still have it be really good and omnipresent, that's good. It should be a little bit weaker while still being good. As a default card in both Shuri and Thanos, this change does impact those decks a little bit more than those two. Yeah, everybody's still playing Sunspot. Holy crap! They made Shadow King better. I don't know if this is good enough. Shadow King's whole purpose is to fight back against exactly the kind of thing that Shuri's doing, but this card simply released too weak to be consideration for most decks. We recognize the status as a Series 4 card that's used to answer, and this might impact... Actually, you know what? This is really good for Surfer, right? Like, Surfer's one really bad matchup is Shuri. This is probably enough to give Surfer a fighting chance into Shuri. That's probably the first thing to try. This is a really good big change for Surfer. Yeah, Warhead, they got Warhead as well. Yeah, I mean, Cosmo still exists, but like this gets past armor and it's a 3-drop now. Yeah, it gives Surfer play into Hitmonkey and Angela decks. Yeah, this is another good change. Sentry. We're going from a 4-8 with a -8 to a 4-10 with a -10. Sentry's a card that hasn't found a great home yet. And while these number changes aren't an obvious impactful buff, it does increase the potential reward for running Sentry and donating your void with Viper. This is just a change we're interested to try out, so we're making it here. Fun fact, the original data mine for Sentry was this text. And then they released it as a 4 with a -8. So I'll be curious to see what that means. Our balance future. Speaking of changes we're interested in trying out, we have an exciting announcement about the future of card balances for Marvel Snap. Starting with our upcoming April patch, currently scheduled for 4/18. Okay, people keep asking when are Bass downgrades coming and Valkyrie and Shuri downgrades. 4/18. 4/18 is when we should expect series downgrades. We're going to be making weekly changes to cards in the game. Our patch every 4 weeks will continue to be on Tuesdays and include card updates as well, but the intervening weeks will each feature changes going live on Thursdays via over-the-air updates. We know that this is just the sort of balanced attention and prioritization many of you have clamored for, so thanks for your passionate feedback. They are listening, chat. Passionate's a good word for it. Sometimes we're assholes, but we're passionate assholes, chat. It's been a multi-team effort to get this process buttoned up over the last month, and we hope we are excited for it as we are. Let's go ahead and address some questions that should be popular. Why Thursdays? Why not? Actually, Thursdays are just a good day to slide into the rest of our schedule and ensure the QA team has enough time to verify these updates. It also avoids stepping on new card releases or hot/featured locations. What kind of changes will we make? Our OTA tool gives us the ability to make changes within about a week or two, but is limited in what we can change. We're continuing to develop the tool and expand its limitations, but for now, you can expect Thursday weekly changes to be numbers only like above, with our larger patches still addressing most major changes to card functionality and VFX. So what does this mean? This means card text boxes won't change, and it means that if they wanted to make a change to a card that means its animation or sound effect needs to be different, that would need to be in a patch still, which makes sense. This still gives them a lot of flexibility to do what they want to do. Expand its limitations. This sounds like they eventually want to get around this, but for now, this is where they're at. Will we be nerfing or buffing cards? As you can see with Sentry and Shadow King, we intend to buff cards via OTA. In fact, we're going to guarantee at least one buff in each of these updates. That's great. My RTX voice is filtering out my clapping. That's great. This is exactly what I said I wanted, chat. Like, just take the shittiest card every week and give it a number. That's all you gotta do to keep people happy. How big does Crystal get before she's playable? 4'7"? 4'8"? 4'9"? But yeah, like that's great. Just little changes. Like, nobody reasonable wants a complete metagame re-sculpting every single week, right? But just small changes to cards that see no play or awful win rates with some amount of play each week will keep things fresh and interesting for people to work on new things, right? Our target is 2 to 4 cards each week. On patch weeks, it's possible we'll change more, and that's a unique access point for us. That sounds great. 2 to 4 cards a week. Awesome. Phenomenal. How will we pick cards to change? God, there's even more communication here. We have a list of buffs and a very small list of nerfs that we're making to existing content. We're prioritizing them based on how we expect individual changes to affect the metagame or even combine with new cards and locations, but we'll shift them around based on the live changes. Why not just make all the changes now? One of the things we're wary of with balance patches is how much change is too much change. We've avoided changing more than a handful of cards at a time for a while now, and we think that's usually a good thing because they're easier to digest. Plus, the pacing of these changes lets us lightly freshen the metagame periodically rather than shake it all up at once and then watch for things to settle in a new state of stasis. We've planned a trial period for May, and depending on how that goes, we may continue onward. We're optimistic about that approach at the moment. This is good. Yeah, and this is honestly, this is something exactly like I've talked about before. Ideally, you shouldn't be changing more than 2 to 4 cards in a week. Like this is a good number of things to see change. Because if you change too many variables at the same time, you're not going to be able to figure out where things went wrong or what's working or what's not. But the problem was they were only changing a small number of cards once a month. But changing a very small number of cards per week is excellent and ideal, I think. So, honestly, I'm going to give them like an A+ on the actual changes that they made. And is there a grade better than A+? This is just like S tier communication overall. Like this is, they just like got out in front of, we know the problem's actually Shuri, why are you touching Red Skull? They communicated what types of changes they're going to be making. They told us the frequency of them. They told us loosely what their goals are. Like, all right. My copium is renewed, chat. We have a channel in the Discord server titled Complaining for the last month right now. And I had said in there earlier this month or late last month that I had 1 month of copium left. And they've renewed me. You've got an extra month of copium now, Second Dinner. I am all about it. Yeah, you got me through May. We're gonna have weekly updates through May. I'm glad they're trying it for a month and a half. That sounds lovely. Excited for the future. This communication is great. The actual things you're implementing are great. No notes. Keep knocking it out of the park, Second Dinner. Thank you. If you're watching this on YouTube in the future, make sure you like the video to help it reach more people. Subscribe to the channel. We post Marvel Snap breakdowns here constantly. Shout out to the 2,500 people that are watching us do this live at twitch.tv/Jeff Hoagland, where I am live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. Central until about 3, 4, sometimes even 5 p.m. Central.